Hello everyone, my name is Dakota and welcome back to my channel where here we talk about everything superhero related, and in today's video we're going to be discussing everything you need to know before Daredevil Born Again releases. But before we get into that, can we get into the hoodie? I mean, come on. I made this hoodie like a couple months ago and I've been obsessed with it. It's honestly my favorite hoodie that I've ever made. One more thing before we get into the video, be sure to check out my Etsy. The link is in the description down below, where I make really cool necklaces that you don't want to miss out on. I actually just posted a new one today that's Daredevil and Punisher inspired, so go ahead and check that out. And while you're at it, follow my Instagram. I just posted it last night, so go check that out. And now that that's out the way, let's get into the video. So this video is really for people who need a quick recap on Daredevil and Punisher, or those who aren't really into Marvel but kind of want to know a little bit about it so they understand the show. So going into this, I'm going to assume you already know some of these characters, including Dex, Kingpin, Maya, and of course Matt Murdock and Frank Castle. So to start us off, I'm going to do a brief overview of all 3 seasons of Daredevil, starting with Season 1. So in Season 1, of course, we are introduced to the main characters, Matt Murdock, who's Daredevil, and Wilson Fisk. We see the first of many Daredevil suits in the first season as well, the black suit, which Matt makes himself. Wilson Fisk's goal of this season, and kind of goal in general, is to take over Hell's Kitchen. We get that iconic hallway fight scene in the first season, which is probably my favorite fight scene in Daredevil. And of course we have the Russian brothers who work for Fisk that are also fighting against Daredevil. And towards the end of the season, Foggy Nelson, who is partners with Matt Murdock in his law firm, Nelson and Murdock, finds out his true identity as Daredevil. Moving right along to Season 2, Karen finds out about Matt's true identity as well. Karen is an employee at Nelson and Murdock and also a love interest of Matt's. In Season 2, we also have Frank Castle being introduced, which is the Punisher, of course. Now, I won't get into anything regarding Defenders. I do think that you all should watch it because it is a great saga to get into. But regarding Daredevil Born Again, I don't think you really need to watch anything Defenders related to understand Daredevil Born Again. Now moving on to the 3rd and final season of Daredevil, Wilson Fisk is out of jail and he comes close to breaking Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock suffers the most during this season, in my opinion, mentally and physically. And he suffers with Catholic guilt. That is a huge part of Daredevil's character. And with this Catholic guilt comes his big rule that he follows, which is this no-kill rule, which I'll get into a little bit later. This season, Ben Poindexter is also introduced, which is a huge character to know for Daredevil Born Again. Ben Poindexter is otherwise known as Bullseye. He was manipulated into becoming Fisk's personal assassin, and he also suffers from borderline personality disorder and psychopathic tendencies. Later in the season, Ben impersonates Daredevil, causing the public to turn against him. And at the end of the season, we have the iconic fight between Daredevil and Kingpin, which ends up with Matt letting Kingpin go because of his no-kill rule. Now moving on to the Punisher. While I don't think you need to watch the Punisher to understand Daredevil Born Again, it definitely won't hurt. And in my opinion, the Punisher is one of the best Marvel TV shows. I really enjoyed the Punisher series, and I'm definitely super excited to see Jon Bernthal back as the Punisher in Daredevil Born Again. So I definitely would recommend watching the Punisher, but I don't think you need to watch it to understand Daredevil. As long as you know his backstory and his relationship to Matt Murdock, I think you're good. So a little bit about Frank Castle. He is a former Marine who lost his family to Billy Russo, who is a former friend of his, who organized a mob execution. It's a very sad story. During Frank Castle's trial with Matt Murdock as his lawyer, he makes the connection and discovers that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, so he is aware of Daredevil's true identity. Frank briefly works with Fisk to get out of prison, and they both want to eliminate criminal empires in Hell's Kitchen. Although I would say their relationship is 100% hostile. Frank Castle does not like Wilson Fisk. Just remember that. Frank's relationship with Matt also starts off hostile, but they reluctantly team up together, so they're not best friends, but they're also not enemies. Somewhat. It's a complicated relationship, but they have teamed up before in the past. And one of the biggest differences between the Punisher and Daredevil that everyone needs to know is the Punisher will kill anyone in his way, and Daredevil does not kill. That is the most important thing to remember when thinking or talking about the Punisher and Daredevil. The Punisher kills, Daredevil does not. And this is where their conflict begins. Now moving on to something a little more recent, we have the Echo series, which again is a series I don't think you need to watch to understand Daredevil Born Again, but it definitely will not hurt. And once again, this is another series that I love, and as a Native American myself, it was great to see so much representation, and Alaqua Cox is so good, the perfect Maya Lopez. So in the first episode of this series, we have a Daredevil and Maya encounter. They fight a little bit, but that's really it, and Daredevil does not come back. Kingpin and Maya, however, have a lot of complex history. After the murder of Maya Lopez's father, Kingpin takes her under his wing, and we see quite a vulnerable side of Wilson Fisk in this series. And we also see just how much trust Wilson has in Maya. But the most important thing in this series in regards to Daredevil Born Again is the post-credit scene. We learn that Wilson Fisk is running for mayor of New York, which leads us into the first season of Daredevil Born Again. Now moving on to something even more recent, some Daredevil Born Again set photos. So from the set photos we know, and teaser trailers, we know that Matt Murdock is going to be teaming up with Wilson Fisk. Of course, we don't know what this entails yet, but it's definitely interesting considering Matt Murdock's relationship with Wilson Fisk. And as for the new characters being introduced, we have Muse, White Tiger, and the return of Bullseye and the Punisher. Now, Muse is a character that we have not seen at all on screen. He's a supervillain who first appeared in September of 2016 in Daredevil Volume 5. He's a known serial killer artist who plans shocking mass murders, abductions, and torture as a means of creating his art. And of course, we don't know much about White Tiger either, except for the set photos that we saw that were being spread on Twitter. I don't even know how many months ago. I won't share those set photos because I know some people like to be surprised about like what the suit looks like and everything like that. Technically, we're not supposed to know that White Tiger is going to be in Daredevil Born Again because the trailer was only shown to the D23 Expo crowd, but of course it's all over Twitter. But I won't show that because I know a lot of people like to be surprised. I like to be surprised myself. If you don't remember anything from this video, just remember this. Matt Murdock is Daredevil, of course, and he suffers from Catholic guilt, and his one big rule is no killing. Wilson Fisk is back, and he's running for mayor in New York. Frank Castle is back as well, and probably killing everyone in his way. And also, I just want to say, his last interaction with Matt Murdock was getting help faking his death, so that's where they stand. And finally, Ben Poindexter, otherwise known as Bullseye, is back, and he's coming for Daredevil. They are not friends. And I think that just about wraps up everything you need to know before Daredevil Born Again releases. Now, of course, I'm going to say go watch all 3 seasons of Daredevil and all of Punisher and all of Echo because they're all amazing shows. But I know not everyone has time for that, and Daredevil Born Again is coming out pretty soon. I know some people just want to know a little bit so they understand Daredevil Born Again. So I think this is a good brief overview and recap of everything you need to know. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below if you would like an in-depth video on Daredevil or Punisher or literally anything regarding those two or anything Daredevil related. And if you didn't know already, I am a huge Daredevil fan. I actually got the chance to meet Charlie Cox about a year ago, and I still think about it to this day. So I am super excited for Daredevil Born Again to come out, and I cannot wait. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much if you made it to the end, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye. I never made love.